Today marks 4 years since Russia invaded Ukraine. Both countries have been deadlocked over the past year on finalizing a peace deal. Today, the U.S. abstained on a UN resolution passed by a wide majority of countries calling for an immediate ceasefire and affirmed Ukraine's territorial integrity. In Washington state, 4 victims are dead, plus a suspect after a mass stabbing.
When calls began coming into the Pierce County Sheriff's Office southwest of Seattle, callers said an adult man had come to a home in violation of a no-contact order. But deputies say that order had not yet been served, and when they arrived, they found the man stabbing multiple victims outside of the home. It appears to have been a domestic violence incident. A deputy arrived and fired shots. The stabbing suspect was shot and killed. 4 adult victims also died. Alex Stone, ABC News.
In Miami, it's a countdown to spring break. After years of strict crackdowns, Miami Beach officials are easing restrictions, though, with a twist.
Miami Beach is inviting Americans to hit the sand for spring break in a new ad blitz with a big twist.
Excuse me, sir. There's no drinking in public.
The city hoping to swap the boozy beach party with a healthier alternative.
Green juice?
Promoting a week of wellness with their Break a Sweat campaign. Whether it's yoga and marathons or volleyball and beachside massages,
Why don't you come play with us?
officials are playing up the sober side of spring break.
ABC's Sophie Flay. I'm Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
A small business affirmation from Progressive. Bakery owners, you will be loved today. Every pastry will be flaky. Your cake will make a child's day. Your delivery van won't get sideswiped by a distracted garbage truck driver. But if so, breathe easy, knowing you'll get back to business quickly with Progressive protecting your commercial auto. See if you can save in as little as 8 minutes at progressivecommercial.com.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU.
4:05 as the rain's coming down outside the KVNU studios, and I'm Will Fiore with your local headlines. Well, a federal court ruled yesterday that Utah's new congressional map, which unifies Salt Lake County, will remain in place for this year's election. The 3-judge panel had denied a request from Republican officials, including U.S. Representatives Celeste Malloy and Burgess Owens, to block the court-ordered boundaries. Now, the ruling marks the second recent legal defeat for GOP challengers following a similar dismissal by the Utah Supreme Court. Now, the map, adopted last November by state judge Diana Gibson, replaced legislative districts struck down for partisan gerrymandering. Now, it improves Democratic prospects by consolidating the state's population center rather than dividing it. Now, citing the imminent election cycle with candidate filing openings March 9th, the federal judge ruled that it was too late to intervene, warning that blocking the map would cause voter confusion. Meanwhile, a 26-year-old Murray man is now facing felony arson charges after allegedly starting a fire that caused an estimated $250,000 in damages at an apartment complex. William Fordyce was charged last week in 3rd District Court with multiple felonies. Now, police say the February 18th fire that happened at the apartment complex forced the evacuation of several tenants. Now, investigators later determined that the blaze began in Fordyce's unit, where they had found a paperback book and other combustibles stuffed into a dryer vent and ignited. Now, Fordyce allegedly had hid in a neighbor's unit before fleeing from the scene. Officers deployed a taser twice in order to subdue him, and police reported finding cocaine in his possession and noted that he also appeared to be intoxicated. And while last week's storm did bring some much-needed snow to our state, water managers say, though, it was not enough to reverse a winter that has seen record lows. Now, Jared Hansen, who's director of water policy for the Central Utah Water Conservancy District, noted that an unusually dry January and early February has cost the state about a third of its typical snow accumulation this season. Now, before last week's storm, many measurement stations were sitting at or near record lows. Now, Laura Haskell, who's drought coordinator with the Utah Division of Water Resources, reported that while the storm did add about 1.5 inches of water equivalent, the statewide total sits right now at just around 7.5 inches. Now, officials are emphasizing the continued need for conservation, particularly regarding outdoor landscaping, which accounts for nearly 60% of the state's water usage. Well, and this rain is going to help a little bit, as we have had snow falling up through Logan Canyon, as Beaver Mountain getting a little bit of snow. And we're going to continue to see this chance of moisture continuing through tomorrow, as temperatures have been in the mid-40s today. Same for tomorrow, then warmer weather coming Thursday and Friday, as we'll see some more sunshine. And it's Cardall's Insulation that brings you our weather here at the top of the hour. If you're constantly adjusting your thermostat this time of year, it may not be the furnace. Maybe time to check the insulation in your home. Call Cardall's Insulation at 755-5012. And I'm Will Theorite for KVNU News.
Whole Tree Care.
Winter is finally here, and for Whole Tree Care, it's when the smartest work gets done. January and February mean the biggest savings of the year on tree trimming, 40% off. With the leaves gone, it's easier to trim and shape your trees, all while beating the spring rush.
Whole Tree Care.
The only finger you have to lift is to dial the phone number, 760-6587. Whole Tree Care, 760-6587.
Whole Tree Care.
You've got your whole life ahead of you, so choose a Medicare plan you can count on. And if you have both Medicare and Medicaid, you may be eligible for a United Healthcare Dual Complete plan if your Medicaid status has changed. A Dual Complete plan may help you get more benefits than original Medicare alone. Visit uhcdualplans.com to learn more. That's uhcdualplans.com. United Healthcare Medicare plans. It's Medicare coverage you can count on.
Today's hearing aid technology can improve not only your life, but the lives of the people who care about you. Once again, you'll be able to hear the reason for their laughter and understand conversations. Dr. Paul Danes will customize a hearing improvement program to meet your unique requirements, whatever they are. Call Dr. Danes for an appointment at 753-HERE and let him show you how.
Bring back what you've been missing. Bring back Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology.
Yeah, it's cold, but winter is no excuse to let that junk vehicle sit around another month. DD Auto and Salvage in Logan is paying top dollar right now for junk cars and scrap metal, and they'll even pick it up. And here's the big news. With Box Elder County salvage yard gone, DD Auto proudly serves Brigham City to Malad and beyond. With the Valley View Highway complete, it's an easy drive, or just let DD Auto and Salvage come to you. Call 787-1204. That's 787-1204. DD Auto and Salvage, turning winter junk into serious cash.
KVNU's For the People with Jason Williams and Bill Walter.
And it is Utah known as the fraud capital of the world. Not because we have more people committing fraud, but because we have so many people falling for it.
Going beneath the headlines and connecting you to the newsmakers.
The radio is a great way to get the word out to a lot of people in an emergency. So we thank you for your help and being a partner with us.
For the People on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM, 102.1 FM, online at 610kvnu.com and on the KVNU mobile app.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People. It is Tuesday, February 24th. I'm Jason Williams. 44 degrees here at the Radio Ranch at 4:11 in the afternoon. Coming up on the show, representatives of Slow the Flow will be joining us. This is a combined effort to both encourage people to conserve water, but also rescue the Great Salt Lake. This has been, for years in Utah, being a desert state, water conservation has been something that has received a lot of attention in the public service realm. And there are now, aligning efforts to save the Great Salt Lake. And this has resulted in a pretty aggressive campaign to slow the flow. The idea behind this is to get people to understand, grow the flow. So Slow the Flow was the previous campaign in which they were encouraging people to be more cognizant of how much water you're using in your house. We have a tendency, I do this myself, but we have a tendency to be aware of how much water we're using outside on the lawn, in the flower gardens, in the pastures, things like that, but also in agriculture, and less of a tendency to be cognizant of how much water we're using when we brush our teeth. That water doesn't need to run while you brush your teeth. How long our showers are, things like that. Little things we can do, recognizing that water comes from somewhere too, the culinary water. So The Slow the Flow campaign became Grow the Flow, which seems to be the opposite message. But the idea of this is to recognize the Great Salt Lake challenges, the disappearing lake, and to make this something that statewide becomes really a community effort with everyone on board. So we'll talk with Ben Abbott of Grow the Flow later on in the show today, start of hour 2. Quick programming note for those who've asked. Yes, we are running the State of Union tonight. This will run at 7 p.m. our time. So you'll get yourself an hour of Dave Ramsey this evening, starting at 6 as we wrap up For the People. And then 7 o'clock, we'll switch over to ABC News with live coverage of the State of the Union address from President Trump. So that's the lineup for tonight. Again, appreciate those who have been asking. It's funny, derail myself here. There was a conversation that I was privy to today. I wasn't a part of it. I was just standing there while 2 others talked, and they were asking about, where can we live stream the State of the Union tonight? This thought went through my head. Radio is really the original live stream. Also, no subscription needed. And so I just calmly said to them, well, KVNU's running the full broadcast of the State of the Union tonight. And they said, oh, that's easier. And I thought to myself, yes, it is. Radio, the original live stream for more than 100 years now. So again, we'll be broadcasting the State of the Union tonight at 7, our time. And you'll get an hour of Dave Ramsey before that. And hope everyone will tune in. So the legislature's been busy today, but there is this ongoing battle between lawmakers and the federal government over whether or not states can regulate online prediction markets, sports gambling, basically. And lawmakers here in Utah are pushing back against the Republican-led White House on this one, butting heads here a bit with their own party between federal and state authority over online, quote, prediction market, sports gambling. So lawmakers had a chance to weigh in on that today as things escalated a bit with the White House, and we'll talk about that later on. Some good news, though. The legislative session has been dominated by rumors of this. It is officially official now. Utah's gas tax will be reduced beginning July 1st of this year, about 15%. And that's there's probably not a tax that more directly leads to a tax reduction that more directly leads to savings in the pocketbooks of median wage earners here in Utah. The income tax, for high earners, that was a big cut. For median wage earners, it was about $17 a year. A 15% reduction in the gas tax is going to equate to a lot more than $17 extra a year. So, of course, everyone wanted to see this happen. There was an unexpected twist in all of this, and that was Idaho. Did not have this on my bingo card. I don't think anyone could have predicted this, but being a Republican-led, at least talking about low taxes a lot state like Utah, I didn't expect pushback on this proposal here in Utah from Idaho. It turns out what it was all about, though, as we've discussed here on the show, is Idaho imports a lot of refined gas from I just derailed myself again. I don't know if you've ever seen the comedian Hannah Gadsby. She does a really funny routine on how the rest of the world calls it petrol, which is short for petroleum, but in the U.S. we call it gas. And she said that the interesting thing about petroleum is that it's a liquid, not a gas. Anyway, I don't know why that just popped into my head. She's very funny. I think you can find her on Netflix. But anyway, back to the gas tax. This was proposed, and the Idaho Speaker of the House flipped his lid, threatened to cut off water coming downstream in rivers to Utah, something that you just really couldn't physically do. But he was that mad. He sponsored their version of a resolution. They call it a memorial. I don't know why they call it that. In fact, we should be yelling at them for calling their legislative resolutions memorials. because I think that's odd. They call them memorials. The House Speaker sponsored one condemning Utah for doing this and saying Utah lawmakers were basically taxing or imposing a tax hike on Idahoans. Again, this comes back to the fact that Idaho buys a lot of refined gas from Utah. The proposal here in Utah was to reduce the gas tax to help consumers directly and recoup that revenue, the state, get that revenue through a different measure, which would be increasing taxes on refined fuel that is refined here in Utah and then shipped out of state. Idaho is one of the biggest buyers of that. So everybody thought at this point maybe it was dead for the year. It turns out it is not. It is official that July 1st, you'll see a 15% reduction in the gas tax here in Utah. And Governor Cox called this continuation of the abundance mindset. He's got to quit it with these buzzwords. I think people are getting lost in the buzzwords. But he says that he's happy to see this, that it's something that won't hit families at the pump as hardest. And he said that in Utah, building partnerships and infrastructure that keep life affordable is part of keeping the state resilient. And so this is an important move long term, not just in the pocketbooks of those of us filling at the pump every day. So the sponsor of the bill, Representative Cal Roberts, I guess he actually went to Idaho and sat down with them and talked, and they were able to work out some things. Joel Ferry, executive director of the Utah Department of Natural Resources, was involved. The president of the Utah Petroleum Association was involved. And the bill itself would basically, originally, again, House Bill 575 would have taxed state refineries to fund the reduction in revenue from cutting the Utah gas tax that consumers pay directly. The final version that passed out of the legislature funds about a 6-cent reduction of the price of gas at the pump out of the state's own budget. So basically what happened as an olive branch to Idaho is they decided to cut the gas tax less here in Utah, a 6-cent reduction, about 15% of what you pay each gallon. And then the state will take that loss of revenue just directly out of the state's budget. There was no language in the final bill that increased the taxes on refined petroleum that was going to be shipped out of the state. So I would expect talk to continue with Idaho on this because I guarantee lawmakers don't want to keep cutting this much revenue out of the budget, the state's overall budget. But we still get the gas tax for now. It's House Bill 575 if you'd like to look at it. It's a very short bill. It's a long scroll because it contains a lot of other statute, but it's basically 3 additional lines of statute and 2 lines stricken. And the gas tax reduced by about 6 cents, a 15% reduction. Original talk was to eliminate it outright. We'll see if that talk continues into the next legislative session. But this go round, this is what we're getting. So good news. I mean, not as good as it could have been, but still, a 15% reduction is not nothing. We'll be back with more of KVNU's For the People, talk about how lawmakers are responding to butting heads with the Republican-led White House over regulating online sports gambling. That's next here on KVNU's For the People.
News Talk 610 AM, 102.1 FM, KVNU.
When you need tires, who do you trust? Discount Tire, serving Logan, Providence, and Smithfield, carries the brands you rely on. BF Goodrich, Michelin, Rodex, and more. Best of all, they're fair, honest, and straight with you. No leaving feeling ripped off. Summer travel is right around the corner, so get your car road ready with new shoes that keep your family safe. Discount Tire, the brands you trust, the team that keeps you rolling. Online at webtires.net.
Discount Tire, so much more than a tire store.
Hey Chuck, tell the people of Logan and Ogden why DLC is amazing.
For 28 years, we've had one simple, transparent signature loan for up to $5,000 that we process in less than an hour. We lend cash at our local locations or electronic instant funding at don'tbebroke.com. It's always free to apply, and some folks just want to find out how much they qualify for so they know later down the line when they need the cash. We don't require good credit, collateral, or a checking account. We lend more, charge less, and allow the customers longer to pay the money back. At Dollar Loan Center, we love to say yes. Oh yeah, new customers get their first week's interest free. And the daily interest rate on a $500 loan, it's just $3.78. You can do the math from there.
Well put, Chuck. That was a lot. You can find everything at don'tbebroke.com.
If you're constantly dusting or battling allergies, Jonathan Duct Hunter says your air ducts might be to blame. Construction dust and debris can linger in your HVAC system long after the tools are put away. Breathe easier with a professional air ducts cleaning from the Duct Hunter. You'll enjoy less surface dust, cleaner, healthier air, relief from allergy symptoms. Plus, they'll clean your dryer vent while they're there for added safety and efficiency. Call 435-770-4813 for your free quote today. Fresh air is just a phone call away.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. It's been an interesting one to watch because it's unexpected, but Utah lawmakers with plans, the Governor Cox with plans to regulate as a no gambling state prediction markets. That's what we call them, but they've evolved into sports gambling online. They're skirting a lot of state gambling laws by being a quote prediction market. People bet on the just like sports gambling, the odds of a certain outcome as opposed to the score of a game itself, but it's still gambling. And Utah, again, no gambling state. Lawmakers have explained that their philosophy on this is when it comes to, they realize a lot of Utahns go to Vegas and Wendover or up across the Utah-Idaho border to La Tienda to buy Powerball tickets. They're not blind to that, but they said the most they can do really is make sure that there are barriers to gambling. So, to go gamble in Vegas, you have to go there on vacation. You can only stay for a few days, a week at most. And you come back, and there's no gambling right next door. And they believe that this, and there is a lot of research to suggest they're right, that lack of access to gambling decreases the harms of gambling and the frequency of gambling addiction, frequency of bankruptcies, frequency of just astronomical credit card debt. As we discussed yesterday, there is evidence to show that in states where online gambling, sports betting like this has been left legal or even directly made legal, there's been an increase, 10% increase in bankruptcies that aligns with the legalization of online sports gambling. Also evidence to suggest that people are accruing more credit card debt and paying that debt back more slowly in states that have legalized online sports gambling. So the governor said in Utah, we'll ban it. The White House fired back, not directly mentioning Utah, but in a video, the Trump-appointed chair of the CFTC said, we'll sue any state that tries to ban this. And the governor responded via a tweet saying, we'll see you in court. We're going to ban it. The legislature today was asked to weigh in on this back and forth with a question that, very simple question. Do you feel, as state lawmakers, that the state banning online sports gambling, sports betting, prediction markets tramples on the federal authority to regulate gambling? Here's what Senate President Stuart Adams and the rest of Senate leadership had to say in response.
Well, I also believe in the 10th Amendment, so we'll see how that turns out. But I think there's a state right in this, and we'll probably fight to protect our state rights. And I'm only one vote, but I'm opposed to gambling.
Well, and I'll say I'm not going to disclose whether or not I have a Kalshi account, but I'm actually going to support the bill, and I think that if you read some of the comments, I don't want to speak for the governor, but he's made some really strong statements. And back to what President...
And I'm standing with the governor on this one.
What the President said, the 10th Amendment matters. I think it's a state issue, and I think this is one where I think we're going to fight.
Yeah, we're going to fight.
Yeah, and if we can put some of those funds back to feeding children and oral health for kids, that would be amazing.
Oh, there's going to be a debate. I can tell you.
Let's poll the audience. Who has a call sheet account here? No, I'm just kidding.
So I don't even know what this is.
You and me
Hey,
both,
man.
man.
I can show you after.
I don't want to know, okay?
You can bet on anything.
If I want to give my money to someone, I'm going to give it to my grandkids. So anyway, rather than some call sheet. So anyway.
Again, that was a short conversation, but basically laying it down, saying that they plan to pass these bans. Still, remains to be seen whether this is a single bill, a set of bills, something that happens this session, or is sent to interim for longer study. So again, a lot of questions still. But overall, the goal of the state of Utah is to ban these prediction markets, this online sports betting industry that has gotten really popular over the years. Senator Mike McKell there mentioned Kalshi. That's one of the main ones. You saw ads for them during the Super Bowl, in fact, and Utah plans to ban them as a no gambling state. Again, there's evidence to suggest. Andy Larson at the Salt Lake Tribune, we talked about this yesterday, highlighted some research that's been done that shows, if not directly related to the legalization of online sports betting in some states, a real big coincidence. But an increase that coincides with the legalization of online sports betting, with about a 10% increase in bankruptcies in those states, and a very noticeable, from bank data, very noticeable increase in credit card debt, and also, along with that, a noticeable decrease in the amount people are paying back each month, something that finance experts say can be very indicative of someone with either a spending problem or a gambling problem. And all the states that have legalized this have seen that trend. States who have not seen that trend. So it could be something else. This could be, the adage correlation, not causation. Could be, but it'd be one heck of a coincidence that it would align with the legalization of online sports prediction markets, not gambling, it's prediction markets. But Senate President and top leadership brass, a part of this conversation, telling the media today, no, we plan to ban it. The White House says they'll sue, and we're prepared for that. We'll echoing the governor without actually saying the words, we'll see you in court. So we'll see where this one goes. They have 10 days left. We're on day 35, so 10 working days of the legislative session left, and they're done. Getting down to the wire. Expect the pace to pick up, and also the amount of time they spend actually reading the bills they vote on to greatly decrease. So that's where you come in. le.utah.gov to keep an eye on them. We'll be back with this week's sneak preview of Sutherland Institute's Defending Ideas right after this look at the news with KVNU's Will Feel Right.
Well, thank you, Jason. Corey Richins, the Utah children's book author accused of fatally poisoning her husband, faced a jury yesterday as her murder trial began nearly 3 years after his death. Now, prosecutors argued yesterday that Richins had spiked Eric Richins' drink with fentanyl back in March of 2022 in order to inherit his $4 million estate, pay off massive debts, and also start a new life with a boyfriend. Now, they allege that she was chronically unhappy and had waited at least 15 minutes to call 911 after finding him unresponsive. Now, defense attorneys had countered by playing Richins' frantic 911 call and pointing to Eric Richins' history of using substances like hydrocodone for chronic pain. Now, they argued that his family hired a private investigator because they could not accept that he may have been responsible for his own death. Now, the trial is expected to last for about 5 weeks. And anti-tobacco groups gathered at the state capitol last week to urge Utah lawmakers to increase the tax on smoking and vaping products. Now, they say it would help deter young Utahns from taking up the habit. Now, legislators are considering a bill that would raise the tax on cigarettes by $2 a pack and bring other products like e-cigarettes and nicotine pouches in line with the increase. Now, Brooke Carlisle with the American Cancer Society's Utah Cancer Action Network told House members that it is an effective plan.
significantly increasing tobacco taxes and investing in tobacco prevention and cessation programs that save lives, reduces healthcare costs, and generates revenue. In fact, it is one of the most effective ways to prevent youth from starting to use tobacco and to encourage those who already are addicted to it.
Now, Carlisle says the Big Tobacco spends more than $38 million a year marketing its products to Utahns, including young people. She says it's been 16 years since state lawmakers last raised the tobacco tax, and meanwhile, smoking is taking a deadly toll on the state.
It is estimated that approximately 15,170 Utah residents will be diagnosed with cancer, and almost 4,000 of them will die from the disease. Our analysis estimates 15.7% of cancer deaths in Utah are attributable to smoking.
Now, last week, cancer survivors and patients gathered at the state capitol for Cancer Action Day to meet with lawmakers about supporting the bill. And a Logan woman remains sheltering in place in Mexico, specifically in the Puerto Vallarta area, as cartel violence has erupted ever since the weekend following that reported death of a notorious drug lord. Stephanie Thornley described a war zone of car bombs and gunfire that have erupted during her vacation, all since Mexican officials announced the death of El Mencho during a military shootout. Now, Thornley was whale watching over the weekend when she noticed smoke plumes begin to rise over the city. She later heard explosions while FaceTiming with her husband, Dave, who's back here in the States. Now, while U.S. airlines have suspended a number of flights and the U.S. Embassy has advised travelers to stay indoors, Thornley, meanwhile, remains somewhat stranded. Now, although conditions have started to improve, she's not scheduled to return home until next weekend. Well, rain expected to continue through the rest of the afternoon and overnight tonight, as we've been in the mid-40s today. Tonight will drop into the high 30s, continue to see showers into tomorrow, as tomorrow temperature is expected to stay right around the mid-40s. And weather brought to you by Dr. Keith Nilsson. When it comes to eliminating your knee pain, trust Dr. Keith Nilsson and his over 27 years of experience. Get more information by visiting his website, drkeithnilsonortho.com. And I'm Will Feelwright for KVNU News.
ABC News, I'm Stephanie Officer. About 50 million people from Virginia to Massachusetts are dealing with blizzard condition. Roughly 500,000 of them do not have power as winds in some areas reach 60 miles an hour. In New York City, the conditions have improved since the early morning. Mayor Zoran Mamdani.
So far, the storm has dropped 16 to 19 inches on most parts of our city, with parts of eastern Staten Island reporting over 24 inches of snow.
Sources tell ABC News the masked man seen on Nancy Guthrie's doorbell camera February 1st when the 84-year-old was kidnapped had actually been there before. The image the FBI released of the suspect at her doorstep without a backpack was captured by her Nest doorbell camera the prior day. The FBI said the images of the suspect with the backpack are from the morning of her disappearance, Sunday, February 1st, when Guthrie failed to show up to watch a virtual church service. This is ABC News.
This is Matt Robbins with Quality First Insurance, and we are now Alera Group. This is great news for you. Now you have more choices and strength of a top national broker in your corner with our local personal service. Every situation is unique. Now we can tailor coverages from deductibles and limits to risk management, so it fits you even better. Let's compare options and tighten your program. Same friendly faces, same local office. Call 435-752-0101.
Bringing Wall Street to Main Street. From your local experts in downtown Logan, this is the Adams Wealth Advisors Market Report.
Good afternoon. This is Mitch Green with Adams Wealth Advisors. Stocks started the week on a bad note, giving back nearly all the gains from the last week as the U.S. president continues his pushback against the Supreme Court ruling and imposes a new 10% global tariff under a different law. At the same time, newer research indicating possible risk of AI to multiple industries sent related stocks downward. IBM tumbled 13% after Anthropic said its cloud code could help modernize COBOL, a programming language mainly run on IBM computers. This is an emerging phenomenon in the market over the past couple of months, where AI disruptions are occasionally being priced with more uncertainty rather than purely bullish sentiment, and the market has been dragged down by those adjustments as software stocks now dominate major indices. The Dow Jones Industrial Average retreated 822 points to 48,804, while the Nasdaq dipped 1.21% to 24,709, and the S&P 500 posted a loss of 1.04% to 6,838. Financials were the biggest losing sector of the day with a 3.5% decline, followed by consumer discretionary and technology. Losses linked to AI's influence and disruptive changes to the cost structure of financial services led to significant uncertainty about future earnings. As investors sought safe instruments, the bond market and gold saw significant gains. The U.S. 5-year Treasury yield declined by 6 basis points to 3.59%, and the 10-year yield declined by 5 basis points to 4.03%. Gold rose 3.33%, topping 5,250. Economic reporting for today showed factory orders declining by 0.7% compared to a 2.2% forecast and 2.7% in the prior report. As more developments unfold regarding trade policies, we will provide further updates. This is Adams Wealth Advisors. Thank you for listening.
That's your update from Adams Wealth Advisors, guiding your financial future one day at a time. For personalized help planning yours, reach out to us at 435-752-1702. See you soon, Cache Valley. Advisory services offered through Adams Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor. For important disclosures and more information, visit adamswealthadvisors.com.
Who's the business you recommend without even thinking about it? The one you tell your friends about when they move to town? The place that's never let you down, squeezed you in last minute, or remembers your name when you walk through the door? It's time to give them the recognition they've earned. The Best of Northern Utah is back, presented by Alpine Cleaning and Restoration. Nominate your favorite businesses now at bestofnorthernutah.com.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Coming up, Ben Abbott, BYU ecologist and executive director of an organization called Grow the Flow. It used to be Slow the Flow, an effort to get Utahns to think about how much water we're using inside the house when we shower, when we brush our teeth, when we cook, all of that, ways we can conserve water inside the home. Slow the Flow became Grow the Flow when efforts to save the Great Salt Lake were embarked upon. The Grow the Flow name change is a reference to increasing the amount of water going into the Great Salt Lake through the same means, conservation, and several other steps that are being taken. So Ben Abbott will join us at 5 o'clock to talk about Grow the Flow, what they are learning about Utah's water consumption habits, what they're learning about what's effective in getting people to use less water, and how much of an impact it can actually make on saving the Great Salt Lake and northern Utah's water at large. So that's coming up at 5 o'clock. And we also, quick reminder, programming note for the evening. When the show wraps at 6 tonight, we'll go to Dave Ramsey for an hour and then back to politics with the State of the Union. It will air at 7 p.m. our time, and we'll bring it to you live here on KVNU this evening, again, starting at 7 p.m. So for those who are asking, yes, as I said at the start of the show, radio, the original live stream, and no subscription needed. Way more convenient. So every Tuesday on the show, our listeners get a sneak preview of something called Defending Ideas. This is a weekly video show that is produced and put together by a conservative think tank in Salt Lake City, the Sutherland Institute. Longtime friends of the program. Whether you agree with their positions and opinions or not, Sutherland, I think, deserves credit as one of the most successful organizations in the state at creating conversations. And they are not, just yes people. They have bucked the legislature before. They have taken positions at odds with the Republican Party at large nationally. And they say they do this because they are conservatives. And being a conservative doesn't necessarily mean that you're aligned with one party or another. You back conservative ideas regardless of who is promoting them, and you opposed non-conservative ideas regardless of who is proposing them. So Sutherland Institute has been consistent in that, again, whether you agree with them or not. And I love spotlighting them on the show because, again, they get you thinking and talking. Sometimes we get people weighing in by phone, via text, yelling at them. Other times it's, yes, I loved hearing that. Either way, they're great for a conversation, and this week is no exception. Again, a sneak preview every week for our listeners here on the show. You'll be able to watch the full episode at sutherlandinstitute.org afterwards. But they're returning to a similar theme for them, which is discussions about the social safety net. Sutherland Institute for years now has been saying conservatives have ceded this ground to the ideological left, and they shouldn't. That the safety net is important, that these programs that help people out of poverty are necessary, but their argument is they're not as effective as they could be. And that, they say, is the fault of conservatives who have spent decades just opposing their existence rather than trying to improve them. So Nick Dunn this week sits down with Clarence Carter, who is commissioner of the Tennessee Department of Human Services and author of a recent publication called Our Net Has Holes in It. The short version of a setup here is that Carter is arguing in his book that the social safety net has become so complex and unnavigable that no one really knows how it works and that it oftentimes is far less effective than it could be. It's this week's sneak preview of Sutherland Institute's Defending Ideas.
You have been doing this work for a long time. In fact, you've written a book about this work called Our Net Has Holes in It. We'll include the link to that in the show notes, of course, as well. And I want to sort of take this opportunity in this conversation to give our audience sort of an inside look from someone who's helped to run and lead these kinds of programs for a number of years in this country. We've talked about this issue a lot in this on this show, but I think it's important to recognize the kinds of things we deal with here in Utah, the kinds of things we're talking about at the national level, the kinds of things you see in Tennessee and on other past roles. We're sort of trying to build this collective, this consciousness, I guess, that says that or shows that we really do need to engage in some significant reforms to the social welfare system to make the American dream within reach for more of our fellow American families. So with that context, can you maybe first talk to us about, help our audience understand your story, how you came into this work in the first place, what you've done, and kind of how you landed there at Tennessee? Just give us kind of your experiences so we know that context going into this conversation.
So, sure, Nick. I have spent a career in the administration of human services or public safety net programs and agencies for the past 34 years. I've had the blessing and good fortune of serving in the administrations of 2 presidents, 4 governors, and a mayor, all in the administration of the benefits, goods, and services of our society to serve those that are economically, socially, and developmentally vulnerable. And I have done that, of course, at the federal, state, and local levels of government. And the 34 years in this work and developing an understanding of it that almost no one outside of it could, it prompted me to write the book Our Net Has Holes in It, because I wanted to share with the public something that, while this issue is clearly important to our broader society, almost no one outside of it knows what's inside the black box. And so I wanted to, as somebody who literally had a career inside the black box, to share with, if you would, John Q. Public, what's right and what's wrong with our safety net and how we can transform it to better serve our vulnerable neighbors.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think that context is really essential because as we've talked about this issue here on Defending Ideas for a number of years now, a number of episodes, where we've tried to dive into all of this. You know, we often bring data and analysis, and you know, here at Sutherland Institute, we're a public policy think tank. So that's what we do. We put out research papers and events and media content like this to try and help understand this. And we've had folks sitting in the studio with us who are participants in the social safety net who can tell us what it's like to experience it. And so I think your perspective, especially working at the federal level, at the state level in different states, you've kind of attacked this issue, if you will, from many different vantage points over the years. And I want to ask how that fed into the book. I mean, as you looked around at your experiences administering social welfare programs in various parts of the country over decades, and then looked at sort of the way the public perceives or the way policymakers perceive that system, what is your hope that your book will do? Again, the book title, Our Net Has Holes in It. I guess, why did you feel like, well, I've got to write this? We need this to help us better understand these issues, to make improvements.
So Nick, it begins with an understanding that this country, it is the most benevolent and generous nation known to humankind. And I start the book off by delving into that some and how we manifest that benevolent spirit. And so it begins with the fact that we care about human vulnerability, you know, and whether that human vulnerability is amongst our own citizenry or all across the world, okay? We give a damn about vulnerability. And one of the ways we manifest that is that we expend, federal government alone spends $1.49 trillion annually in 114 programs, each designed to address some aspect of human vulnerability. Okay? And so we care enough, we spend enough. Why do we have the poor outcomes that we have? And so the motivation was, this clearly is something that our entire citizenry cares about. How can we build on what we have to do this better for our vulnerable neighbors that desperately need some kind of supports to help them make their version of the American dream come true? That really is the motivation behind the book.
Commissioner, I love the weaving in of the American dream idea, because it gets to sort of the aspirational purpose, or what should be the aspirational purpose of a social safety net at all here in the United States. So I love that framing, that when we talk with, it's usually single moms with some kids who are on these government programs. When we, and again, we've had some of them in this chair right here. I'm pointing to our chair in our physical studio here, sharing their story. They don't want to be on these programs if they could avoid it. They don't want to stay on these programs. They want to work and achieve work-based self-reliance. And there really is this hunger for the American dream in these folks. So I love that framing. I wonder if you can share, if in a couple minutes, and then we'll take a break, and then when we come back from the break, I want to dive into some more detail about what you articulate in your book and kind of what you've seen in your role there in Tennessee and elsewhere. But if there was kind of one key takeaway from your book that you would really want people to remember, regular voters especially, as well as policymakers, when we're thinking about or talking about opportunity policy, what's the one big thing that you think gets missed that we have to remember in these conversations?
That we have to have a shared vision for our societal objective for those neighbors experiencing some form of vulnerability. And I believe that shared vision has got to be freedom for them to be able to carry out their unique version of the American dream. We have built a system, unfortunately, which is really more about the delivery of benefits, goods, and services. And we've lost the notion of what we came here to do. And I think what we should have come here to do is to free people to act in their own best interest. So the most important takeaway is first a shared vision. And then that shared vision ought to be, how do we, very much in the context of the framers of our society, they set out to create a society where the greatest degree of freedom could be experienced by the citizenry while protecting for health, safety, and commerce. And so it stands to reason that all of the organs of that society ought to support that foundation principle of freedom. That needs to be the shared vision of our safety net.
Again, that is a sneak preview of the hour-long conversation in this week's Sutherland Institute's Defending Ideas. You can watch the entire episode at sutherlandinstitute.org or defendingideas.org. Both will get you there. And again, Nick Dunn of the Sutherland Institute speaking this week with Clarence Carter. He is commissioner of the Tennessee Department of Human Services and author of a recent publication, a book called Our Net Has Holes in It. This is an interesting conversation, and though you may not agree ideologically with Clarence or Nick in this conversation, I've actually listened to this book, and it's an important thing to experience because it talks about some truths that both left and right can agree on. That the social safety net is designed generically. It's designed to help the most people with the smallest amount of money, and what that leads to is that lack of individualization in how we get help to a person or a family in need. Oftentimes, Clarence is arguing, actually can hold them back at a certain point. So they get help they need, and then sometimes the system sort of traps them, is the argument he's making. We need to be more open to these conversations, regardless of whether we're coming at this from the left or the right. Because, it's just insanity to pretend we've stumbled upon the perfect model for building a social safety net. I guarantee we haven't. And it's frustrating sometimes when you see our politicians just unable to have the conversation. So check it out, both the book and the rest of this week's episode of Sutherland Institute's Defending Ideas. Again, at sutherlandinstitute.org. You can watch the full, roughly 50-minute conversation with Clarence Carter, hosted by Sutherland's Nick Dunn. And thanks to Nick and crew for making sure our listeners get a sneak preview of this each week. Thoughts? Share them. 753-5868. We'll be back right after this.
Winter's hanging on, but that old rig in the yard isn't worth more by waiting. It's worth money right now. DD Auto and Salvage pays top dollar for junk vehicles and scrap metal and proudly serves all of Cache and Box Elder counties. From Preston to Hiram and Malad to Brigham City, Valley View Highway makes the drive simple. Or skip the trip. DD Auto and Salvage will pick it up for you. Why let it rust when you can get paid? Call 787-1204. That's 787-1204. DD Auto and Salvage. Cold weather, hot payouts.
You work before dawn and long past dusk. At Black Cliffs Equipment, we see that. That's why we bring you Massey Ferguson tractors. Right now, get 0% financing for up to 96 months on select tractor models. Plus, great offers on hay equipment. And when the work gets tough, our service team is here to help with genuine AGCO parts. As a way of saying thanks for all you do, mention this ad when you come in for a free gift. Black Cliffs Equipment, your Massey Ferguson dealer in Hyde Park.
Here in Utah, we're built different. We're built for winter. Whether you're getting the kids to school on a snowy morning or tackling a slick commute home. During the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event, receive 0% for 5 years on the Tucson or Santa Fe, plus no payments for 90 days. And every new Hyundai comes with America's Best Warranty, a 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain limited warranty, and owner's assurance. You've got to come and see us at Murdoch Hyundai in Logan, Linden, and Murray, or online at murdochhyundai.com.
Call 888-391-6083 as your dealer for complete details. Offer expires 3/2/26.
Hi, it's Olivia Munn with my shelter pets, Frankie and Chance, reminding you that when you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the Humane Society of the United States, and Maddie's Fund.
Give your family everything. Give them your time from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Wrapping up hour one of today's show, but hope you'll stick around. Coming up in hour two, we'll kick things off with Ben Abbott. Dr. Abbott is an ecologist at Brigham Young University and current executive director of Grow the Flow, a statewide effort to increase the flow of water going into the Great Salt Lake. He's going to talk to us about what they've learned about Utah's water consumption habits, what works as far as conservation messages, and more what we respond to, what we don't, how much water we're using in our homes versus outside our homes. Going to be an interesting conversation. So Ben Abbott, Dr. Ben Abbott, joining us at 5:10, start of hour two. Wrapping up hour one, though, check this out. You can see it at recreation.utah.gov, but Eric Franzen has a great write-up at cachevalleydaily.com on this. Utah is launching second annual, the Every Kid Outdoors initiative. This is cool, and I'm just between you and I, us adults, this isn't just for adults. I mean, it's designed for kids, but adults go have fun with this too. Everything from an adventure challenge to a specific tour guide, online tour guides and maps, things like that. And at the start of their initiative this year, at least this spring, they're going to be focusing on spring and summer in Logan Canyon with their adventure challenge events, hoping to draw people to the area and recommending they check out some Aggie ice cream while they're here. This is all a part of getting kids outside more often. Recreation.utah.gov is the website. Story with photos and more at cachevalleydaily.com. And stick around, Dr. Ben Abbott from BYU talking about the Grow the Flow campaign to save the Great Salt Lake. That's next here on KVNU Logan.